Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today I'm finally going to make the first video in hopefully a nice series. So I've been talking about me and a couple friends having a GTX 260 overclocking competition between ourselves, and we've now kind of soft started. Not everyone has their card yet, like Deepa still needs a card, and I'm not entirely sure if Salty has one. He has a 260, but that's like very modded. And for the first stage, you're not allowed to use a modded card, um, like cap mods or like volt mods and stuff. Before you say that this is a mod, yeah, technically, yeah, I soldered something to the PCB, but this is only there to make the voltage monitoring, like below here, that thing work. Because that's actually just grabbing the voltage off of the of a capacitor for the memory and the core to see it in the EVC software. I don't have the control pins hooked up. I don't know if you can see that, but the like here the white one's the core control one, and then the orange one, which I can't really touch, is the memory control one. Those are not hooked up. So yeah, I don't have voltage control on the card, which is the mod. Similarly, if you had like a potentiometer volt mod with a switch and you flip it off, then that's also allowed, because like you're not using, like, the mod's not doing anything. It's like putting a sticker on the shroud. It has the same effect. But if you put like cap mods on this, or like a volt mod that doesn't have a turn off switch, that's not allowed for stage one, because that's like changing what the card does, like how it behaves. Um, but yeah. So, yeah, let's just kind of get into the different things in the comp. So this is the Unigine Tropics part of that competition, which is kind of planned to be a bit more of a private thing. I don't think any of us are like super against other people joining in though. We already have, actually, how many do we have? We have, I think, around 9 people. Let me just check it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in it right now. 2 of which don't have their, like, at least one of them doesn't have their card yet. As I said, I'm not sure about Salty. But yeah, right now, the competitors, I can't really, well, I could show it to you. Wait a minute. I can show it to you in just a minute. There we go. So this is the little data sheet that we have. Yeah, this is the main page. So here's all the competitors. I originally like made enough spaces for 10 people, so technically we could have 2 more people. And now I have to check, is my audio even? Yeah, my audio is set up correctly for this scene. I was a bit worried. But yeah, so those are the competitors. So OCB Tomy, who's basically the reason why the comp's happening. He is relatively new to our group, and the GTX 260s, he has 3 of them, were like basically the first cards he bought for overclocking and modding purposes, and like he got them for pretty cheap. Like 260s are cheap in general, and we just kind of thought, hey, let's give him a nice welcome to the group by just having a little friendly overclocking competition with these GTX 260s. Specifically the Core 216 variant, as you can see here. Because there's a 192 core variant of the card too. That one, well, it has less cores, so go figure. Yeah, the 216 is more common. Like, yeah. Like, I don't think like, one person has ended up with an OEM card who is not actually officially a competitor in this. So, yeah, but that was a 192. The rest were 216s. Anyway, yeah, so he's new, and he's actually first place right now. But maybe that will change over the course of this video. I don't know how long it's gonna be. But yeah, so he's new to our group, and we thought of making a little friendly overclocking competition, and then it just kind of started growing from there, and we now have at least 8 people, potentially more. So yeah, then there's me, then there's Salty, who's also a rather high, like he does HW bot stuff. Fanman03, he is the owner of the JackNet RGB Discord and also the JackNet RGB like project. He also got a card and is going to compete. FCO.ix also does things on HW bot. Recently got an 8 GHz FX validation. Sebi also HW bot overclocker. I forgot what he does, but he's pretty good at what he does. Then there's Deepa, who doesn't have his card yet. I still have it on my shelf. I need to ship it to him. There's one more thing I think that I'm supposed to get for him, and then we might be able to ship it. And then there's Old Spice, who also does HW bot things. I don't quite remember. There's him and there's Rage, and I always confuse the two. And I don't know if Rage even wants to take part in this. He might want to. One of them that has a lot of Gigabyte SoC stuff. Sorry, I always forget which one it is. Anyway, so we're not super against people joining in, and I thought of a way to have people join in. So if people like want to join in, I should have the JackNet RGB Discord linked somewhere on the channel. If not, it should be public. You should be able to find it. Go in there. We're gonna make a new thread in the overclocking channel. That's just gonna be called comp submissions. Where just like you post your scores, your screenshots, if you want to join in, and someone of us can add this, because like these are all people that I trust. So I gave well, not all of them have them yet, but they can ask for it and get access to change this sheet. But like I don't want too many people who have access to the sheet, because it only takes one person to press Ctrl A and delete to ruin everything. So I guess everybody who's not in it right now is like not gonna get editing permission. They're just gonna have to use that channel, and then someone has to add their scores. Which, yeah, as long as the competition doesn't get too big, that should be fine. Here's the benchmark settings, by the way. So we're running Unigine Tropics. It does actually run on DirectX 11 mode, even though the 260 only does DirectX 10. But yeah, basically it's max settings everything, except it's windowed and 720p. The reason why we do that is because if it's in, like, the benchmark window doesn't close and give you a score, it just pops a smaller window in the benchmark. So if it was full screen, you would have to close the benchmark, and then your score is gone, and then you can't make a screenshot, so it's in windowed. Here's a little bit of the rules. I'm just gonna have to give the link. It is pinned in the other 260 comp thread in the overclocking channel. But yeah, so you're allowed to use both 65-55 nanometer Core 16s. Just don't use the 192 core variant, because less cores, worse performance. You're just putting yourself at a disadvantage, so we kind of banned it. If you make a screenshot, you need to use the Tropics window with the score, the FPS you got, and the settings, so we can make sure you actually use the correct settings. You need the main GPU-Z window and the CPU and memory tab of CPU-Z. In stages 2 and 3, you also have to have a test bench image. In the first one, it's not needed, because in the first one, everything's stock. In stages 2 and 3, we just want to make sure that you, like, use the right setup. CPU ring clock may not exceed 5005 MHz, like same as cheap-ass chips that you can cheese with, like, LN2 CPUs. Though I don't think anybody's going to attempt that. It's just a 5 GHz lock. And yeah, so we are in stage 1 right now, which is called stock. It's not the most exciting one. But basically the card has to be running on the stock heatsink. And if the card doesn't come with the stock heatsink, use an air heatsink that like performs similarly. And yeah, it's basically a stage meant to figure out the cards if you don't know them yet. You can like bin your cards, like see what kind of setup, like what OS is best, and do that. And then later we're gonna have stage 2 and 3, which we'll get into when it happens. You're not allowed to use the LOD tweak in stage 1. It is allowed in the other stages, but the first stage we thought should be most representative of what you can do with just the card without doing any fancy stuff. So LOD tweak is not allowed in the first stage. Yeah, you'll still be allowed to submit things for other stages, even if the new one's running. And we don't have a set date. It's just like when everybody thinks that they're done with the stage, we transition. And yeah, the same for the entire comp. Like when everybody thinks that they're done, comp's over. And here's the scores for stage 1 right now. So Tommy's first place right now, thanks to his very good memory clock, I assume, because everybody else is running kind of similar core and shader clocks. He is also the only one running a 65 nanometer card for this stage. Everybody else is on a 55, as you can see by the voltage, because the 55 nanometer cards do not have software voltage control. The 65 nanometer ones do. So he actually has voltage control on his card without having to modify it, which is kind of a thing that's good for the 65 nanometer cards. Though you can see he doesn't really gain any clock speed for like core and shader because of it, so it doesn't really do much. But yeah, you can see if you run 65 nanometer by that you have like an actual V-core reading, whereas here it's just, yeah, it just doesn't give you one in software, which is what the EVC is for. But yeah, he has pretty good memory and he has the best score, but as you can see, I'm not far behind. And so the purpose of this video is trying to beat his score and get first place. And yeah, so here we have like screenshots and then test bench images, which everybody has posted so far, but isn't necessary for stage 1. For stage 2, you see the optional is gone though. So after like stage 2 and 3 are mandatory. Anyway, I think this was long enough of a side tangent. So let's get back. Oops. That's the wrong window. So, and let's actually start doing stuff. Okay. So, I just opened up all the stuff so you can see what kind of setup I'm running. So I have the gain ward GTX 260. I made a tell-on video about this if you want to know more about it. Tag also made a volt modding video for this, which is what I mean, I didn't do the volt mod that he showed, but thanks to him, I know what pins to solder to for my EVC volt mod, because I plan to use the EVC for volt modding this too. As I said before, it's not hooked up, it's only measuring the voltage for now, so it's legal for stage 1. But yeah, so like, according to Tag, this is one of the best PCBs for the 260, and I can confirm it's a very good card. But I think the best part about this card is not actually the PCB. The best part about this card is the BIOS. And you specifically only get this on the gain ward version. Because, yeah, I think it is. Because Deepa's card uses the same PCB, same cooler, same everything, but it's a pallet one. And his card doesn't do the thing that I very much like about my card, which is that it doesn't... Sorry, I had to sneeze there. Which is that the card doesn't go into safe mode. It just never goes into safe mode. Which is not giving me a competitive advantage, it's just really convenient to have. BIOS modding, by the way, is also not allowed for stage 1, so... yeah. Well, maybe we'll allow cross-flashing BIOSes for getting things like this, but you're not allowed to, like, change your memory timings or, like, any voltage things in the BIOS. Like anything that affects performance. But yeah, so I have a game mod card, and basically what you usually get on 200 series is when the card crashes, it goes into safe mode. Like, really, it locks itself to really low core and memory clocks, and you can't do anything about it. You have to restart the system. This one doesn't do that. It doesn't do it. When it crashes, it either crashes hard enough so that you have to restart the system anyway, or it will just not go into safe, like it doesn't go into safe mode. So you can either run again when you crash a benchmark, or, well, if you crash it hard enough, then you still have to restart. But which is what the save mode is for, usually, so that the system doesn't crash hard enough so that you have to actually restart. Because the card still runs in save mode, it's just really slow. But yeah. So, yeah, GTX 260 minus a 55 nanometer, as I've said, and yeah, 216 cores. Important bit, do not use the 192. My memory on this one, it doesn't show in GPU-Z, but I have Samsung HDI on my card. There is also Hynix CFR memory. And it is actually kind of interesting, because as I've said again, no, actually, Tomi's card that's currently in first place is also on Samsung. He just has really, really good Samsung. But usually the Hynix chips clock a bit higher, but the Samsung chips should do better once we're like getting cold or like volt modding. But for stock, the Hynix chips at least clock higher. I don't know if they actually score higher, because there should be different memory timings for those. But yeah. And yeah, the rest just like, yeah, my usual test bench, 8700K, 5 gigahertz, you're not allowed to clock it higher. My usual memory setup for the Z370 board, which is a little bit lower frequency. It's only 3700, not 3800, because I can't get the stable on this board. But it does run 1T command rate. The Z390 does not run 1T command rate. And also my TRFC is like 10 clocks lower on the Z370. The Z370 only runs 4.6.16 for the RRDs and T4, though. I think the Z390 does 4.4.16. I'm not entirely sure, though. But yeah, this is Hynix CJR, as you can see from the, yeah. Actually, showing this was pretty... There wasn't really a point, because it's listed anyway at the top. Yeah. And... yeah, I'm using MS Afterburner. You have to make sure that you use the like really old V2 skin, because on Tesla you have individual core and shader clock sliders. You can also use NVIDIA Inspector. I just kind of prefer MS Afterburner when I can. But yeah, you want to make sure that you can adjust these, because if you lock them, your shader clock's usually a bit higher. Like, so the shader clock can't be lower than 2 times your core. But usually if you link it, you can see when we go to 800 core, it's not at 1600 shader, it's at 1730. So the shader clock's a bit higher than it has to be. And usually the first barrier we run into is shader clock instability. Like usually your card will be kept by shader clock. And your core can actually keep going, but your shader clock can't, so you're kind of locked in place. Just not too great. So yeah. So you want to be able to individually adjust shader clock. And yeah, let's just try some settings. So I'm gonna try to run this shader clock, 1566. I'm gonna be on 756 core again, and I'm gonna push my memory to 1280, which hopefully runs. I'll save that real quick. Gonna close Afterburner now. Is there anything else running? Yes, there's quite a lot of stuff running actually. Can't really do anything about that though. So yeah, settings already selected. And let's run the benchmark. And hope that it doesn't die. Or like doesn't crash. So the benchmark is... well, I've actually not measured. It's 15:03 right now for the time. Let's see how long it takes. But you can see it only has 10 stages or 10 scenes. We were thinking about doing Heaven. Oh, and it's artifacting, alright. We were thinking about doing Heaven, but the main issue with Heaven is Heaven has 26 scenes and it takes like 5 minutes to run, which is just too long. If we can avoid it. There is a thing. So once cheap ass chips round 2 is over, which I still have to sub more things for. I wanted to rerun the card. It's on my desk still, I just need to set it up. Haven't been feeling like doing Sub-Zero as of late. But yeah, like once cheap ass chips is over, We were thinking about asking HWBot if maybe enough people would be interested in a 260 comp so that we can actually have like an official HWBot version of this. Unigine Tropics is not an HWBot, so we will have to use other benchmarks, and we kind of already talked about that. We would be choosing Heaven Advantage. Yeah, so we kind of have to take the problem with that Heaven's pretty long for HWBot, because the only Unigine benchmarks that HWBot has is Heaven and Superposition. Superposition doesn't run on this card. And we wanted to have something that's like similar to what we run in our like private version. So Heaven it is for HWBot, which makes it a bit more difficult because it tests longer. You need to have better stability for that. So it would be more interesting since people on HWBot are usually like better than well actually the people that compete in here are also not bad, like pretty good people. At least for like Salty, Sebi, and actually I think FCR does mostly CPU stuff. I don't know how good he is with GPUs. He's probably on my level. Like, I do a lot of GPU stuff, but I don't really consider myself to be that great at things. Like, sure, I'm still first place in cheap ass chips, but that's I still have no idea why I got such a high score on that. Like, I actually have no idea why the score was so high. It's like it's the same ISO for Windows 7 that I'm using right now, and sometimes it just gives you a really, really high score, and I don't know why. I suspect it has something to do with the memory clock, because I'm running the highest memory clock in the ranking. And yeah, memory clock is the most important one for Advantage on the RV710. So I guess that's why I'm in first place. It's just like sometimes the score is a lot higher. Like sometimes you get 1790, sometimes you get 1870. And okay, that's better. I'm gonna screenshot this. But it's not better than Tomi's score. Because like well, it seems that memory clock also matters for this one. Which I'm actually kind of surprised by. I was assuming that. So that, screenshot it before it crashes. Whoop. Save, and it's a 1508, was it? Yeah, 1508. Okay. Yeah, that's like kind of the annoying thing, is that the bench keeps running, and I think it just crashed. Yeah, but you see, that's what I mean. The bench just crashed, but we are still at the clocks reset. On a different BIOS, and I tested this. I tried flashing this BIOS onto the other 260 I have, which didn't work because the other 260s on Hynix chips, and this BIOS only supports Samsung chips, so it was getting artifacting all over the place. But the card was not going into save mode when it had this BIOS. So, yeah. Okay, so 1508 versus 1516. 8 points. So I went from 15 points behind to 8 points behind. Oh, this is gonna be really close, isn't it? Because yeah, I'm now at 1566 shader. I was at 1548 before. So if I push shader one more step, I could potentially match it. But I have a feeling that I'm just gonna crash. I might have some more left in my memory. I know 1300 doesn't work, but I haven't checked to 1290 yet. I know the core is also like maxed, so I'm just gonna test like 10 more memory. And see if that does something. Also, one thing about tropics that I noticed is you cannot unfocus the window while the benchmark's running. I could maybe demonstrate this, but I think the video is getting too long already, so I'm not gonna. Um, but if you unfocus the window, your GPU usage goes down from 99 to like 60%. And yeah, your score also goes down to about that level. So you cannot unfocus the benchmark window while it's running, which I mean is kind of obvious. Though I mean, like if you do Firestrike in windowed mode, you can unfocus the Firestrike window and it's still gonna be full usage. Okay, so we're getting some more heavy artifacting here. Yeah, definitely some more heavy artifacting. Let's just hope that it holds together. This part where it just came out of the water is a place where it usually likes to crash, if I remember correctly. And then there's a different part. I don't quite remember where it was, but it also likes to crash. Samsung chips usually scale with temperature, so the long... Yeah, it just crashed. Okay. So... It's gonna be quite challenging to beat his score, actually, because he's just really lucky with his memory clock. Does this even apply to 55? Let's see if this even applies. No, it just says 1296. And then at 1280, I assume it's a bit lower. Yeah, it's 1269. So say like the steps, at least for shader memory clock, are kind of big. I think the next shader clock step is like 1580. Let's try 1570. Does that apply to something? No, it's the 1566. 1575. Still 1566. And then 1580 is the next. It's gonna be like, yeah, 1584 at that point. We could try it. I think I tested it before and I think it didn't work. But let's see. Yeah, let's see. Let's close everything again. Select that. 720p. Let's also close that window just because. So yeah, let's see if that does it. As far as I know, shader... Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It so doesn't work. Okay, so we now our... It was this... No, not this one. This one. So we know 1280, 1566 is the limit for shader memory. Now we only have core left. And I think that also is not gonna go higher, so I think the best strat is to just rerun the test and hope that we get like a better score because of margin of error. Because I'm so close. Okay, 1560 to... Yeah. I'm pretty sure I tested this. Yeah, 783. That's a pretty big... And it's already artifacting in the jet render test. I don't think this will work. We're gonna test it once, and if it doesn't work, I'm just rerunning the test, because I don't really know what else to do. I'm not allowed to clock my CPU higher, the RAM doesn't go higher. I already have all the performance tweaks in the OS that are allowed, like LOD is not allowed, but I have like... Yeah, okay. So... That's bad. So this is our best clocks. We cannot go higher than this. We very, very specifically found this to be the max that the card can do. There's no voltage control, as you can see, and like even in there's just no voltage control. Like even in NVIDIA Inspector. So I guess we're just gonna rerun and hope to get a better score. Yeah. So as far as I know, shader clock only scales with temperature. It does not care about voltage. Generally. I think I remember something. I did some very limited testing. Like I have the things like, oh, and the camera died again. How long was that frozen for? Okay, so I guess the camera's getting set back to device default because apparently 720p is still too much for it to handle. So there you go. Literally the lowest resolution it goes to. You can do one higher. Is that correct? No, that's too high. Still too high. Yes, it's 1 pixel, but I do care. That's still too high. Damn it. Oh, okay, so the one step that it does is either too low or too high. Okay, this is the closest I can get. I don't know if you can even see it on the output because the canvas is in 4K and the output is gonna be 1440p, I think. Or is it? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah. So you can see that when I put on the wires for this, I did test if it works for like voltage control. And I think I remember when I tested the voltage scaling on the card, I think I saw that my shader clock scales with voltage. And I am pretty sure that this is the only card where I've seen that happen. So that sounds kind of weird because it should be consistent. It's the same GPU. But I remember from the GTX 280s that I had, that shader didn't scale with voltage. People have even said that it scales negatively with voltage because if it normally only scales with temperature, more voltage means more heat, therefore less shader clock. And I think I've also heard confirmations from other people running these cards that their shader clock does not care about voltage. Which is why you can see that Tomy ran his card at like 1.12 volts, which is pretty much exactly what this one's also set to at stock. Like I can't affect the voltage now, it's not legal for stage 1, so. Yeah. My card might be really weird, or maybe I just tested it wrong. But I think I ran like 16, and it crashed. No, it was in the last scene. Oh no. Oh, come on. Just rerun it again. I want that score. I want that score. I can't push the card further. Stage 1 might be really short, actually, at least for me. Because, like, you've seen it in the video. If I go any higher on any of the clocks, it crashes in the first scene, basically. So, and like, my CPU is already as far as it goes. My OS is... I could maybe optimize my OS a bit if I find like a very light version of Windows 7, because this is just a normal Windows 7 ISO, it's like unmodified. I'm pretty sure I can do some optimizing there. Maybe I could even try XP or something. I don't have an XP ISO though, and I'm not sure if I have a PS2 keyboard. Yeah. I do have a PS2 port on my motherboard. I do not have an adapter. But yeah. So, yeah, there might be something to be done in the OS. I've done all the other tweaks. Though actually, I think so. From as far as I know, Unity in Heaven has a lot of OS tweaks that you can do. This might be the same, because this is like the one that came out before Heaven, and Heaven came out pretty. Like I think, and it just crashed again. I think it's just too hot now. I think car's just getting too hot. Um, yeah, but basically, like this bench came out pretty close to Heaven. So I guess it's kind of safe to assume that, how hot is it? 48, yeah. Bad idle temp. Though it doesn't idle like the clocks as well. It like stays at the clocks I set, which is also a side effect of this BIOS. The other cards I do think do idle their clocks. Um, yeah. What was I meaning to say? Oh, I just lost my. Oh yeah. So Tropics might have the same kinds of OS tweaks that Heaven does. I have to read up on that. I just have to read up on how to properly run Heaven. Maybe I'll be able to apply some of those to this benchmark too, which could actually substantially boost my score. Yeah. But I think the most immediate thing I would look for is like if there's like if anybody knows of it, just like put it in the comments if you know it. If there's like a light ISO that you can find of Windows 7, because what I'm using is literally just a normal Windows 7 ISO that I found somewhere. This one's from like some German website because like the only language this one has is German and I cannot change it. So that's why it says NVIDIA Systemsteuerung here and not whatever it says in English. So it's all German. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of the thing I would want to try. Just like a Windows 7 ISO that's like more performance optimized than the standard one. Because I'm pretty sure it exists. I just don't know where to look for it. Okay. Let's. Okay, in the interest of the video not getting way too long, I should have just live streamed this. I should just take the time and set up my live stream properly. I should have just live streamed this stuff because these types of videos, yeah, 37 minutes. Like, I find them interesting, and while they don't get many views, they still get some views. So some people are interested in these as well. So you should just live stream them. Like, honestly. It's just that I'm gonna like randomly decide to do a live stream without any warning, so it's just gonna pop up somewhere. Which I mean, honestly, the format that I'm recording in is also like more live stream oriented, with like all the extra stuff around the capture card. It's twofold. Like first, yeah, it's meant for like live streaming. 'Cause like it shows like the system info and what benchmark we're running so that people don't have to ask me in the live stream. If they like join and don't see the beginning part. The other part is that I can actually just use the recording of this or the live stream to pull screenshots and it crashed again. So if I ever forget to like make a screenshot or like if like theoretically if this would have passed and given me a score and then crashed a second after before I could make a screenshot, I could just pull the screenshot from the recording of this because the capture card is completely unobstructed. You can see everything that's on the screen. So I could crop this and have the completely HWBot legal screenshot of this. Because HWBot does not allow like cropping on the screenshot. You have to see the entire desktop. So that's why I don't like overlaying the camera on top of like some part of the screen anymore, because then I can't do that. And yeah, I think we might have to admit defeat here actually. it's just not passing. And like the only thing that I could do now is just wait for later time of day when the ambient is slightly colder. Try to push like one bit more of memory or shader clock. Because I like the core, actually also the shader. Like core and shader seemed like pretty hard cutoffs. The memory like got a little bit into the test. So that's like the only thing I could do now. It's 3 p.m. right now, and I'm like you can see the time in the corner. Oh, and Windows complains that it likes to be activated. Right. Um, yeah. So we got a better score. We got 7 points. Uh, so we went from a 1501, which is my current best, to a 1508. At like, I think the only change. Yeah, the only change is one step more shader. That's the difference. And then this was my original one, which is like at slow core. Yeah, it's just a... No, actually, it's a... What? Why did I put 720 in the list? I need to correct that. I thought it was 7... It's not. Huh. That... Is this the correct? Oh, no, it's there. It's not the one that's up there, because that's a 1446. The other one's like a 1370 something. I got this one earlier today. Yeah, it's from today. There's nothing in here. There's nothing in there, because I'm just everything dumping in here. Anyway. Yeah, I went from second place to second place, but now I'm at a better spot. Now I have a stronger second place score. I guess that's good. I didn't get first place, but I think there's not really much I can do here, because the card is very, very hard-walled on core and shader, and the memory is not gonna survive the entire test if I clock it higher. So my options right now are just rerun it later when the ambient temperature is slightly lower, which I think is kind of cheating. Like, I mean, it's technically not cheating, but it's just like, well, it's just like better cooling, you know. Or just read up on optimizations that I can do for Heaven and hope that they work on this one too. Or like get a better ISO. So, yeah. I think that would be it for now. I kind of have to admit defeat. I kind of expected that going into stage 1, because the card is pretty unremarkable when you don't have voltage control. As I've said, this one seems to have scaling shader with voltage, which I haven't seen on any other card, and I might still have that tested wrong, but I pretty clearly remember running at like 1650 shader on this one, on the stock heatsink, just with higher VCore. So now for stage 1, Volt modding's not allowed. It's like any kind of modding's not allowed, not hardware, not BIOS modding. Basically the only thing you're allowed to do is like this for voltage monitoring, or just like have mods but disabled. So yeah. Yeah, I'm admitting defeat. We're not gonna get first place today. Might get it later though. Might get it later. And that's the thing that I'm going for. And I might also try to make a little bit of a different video format, because I think like this kind of video is very good for live streaming this kind of setup. I don't think it makes for a very enticing video. Like, I mean, these long form videos never get good views. But it's also something like, I wouldn't really go out to watch a video like that unless I'm already doing something else and I'm just gonna put it on the side. Which I guess is fine. It's just that it's not the kind of video that I would... Like, this comp is a very nice, exciting thing. And I might try to make a little bit of a different video format, like maybe not show everything in between. I'm still gonna show my show the good bits basically. And no, and don't worry, I'm not gonna do it like LTT and only show the score and then don't say how I got there. No, I'm gonna still add information. It's still gonna be a 20-minute Commander Sawyer video. It's not gonna be a 40-minute Commander Sawyer video though. Which I'm currently going into 45 minutes. Great. Yeah, I should stop now. Just crossed 45. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'm probably just gonna live stream this stuff from now on. Depends on how lazy I am. So yeah, goodbye.